Good morning, good evening, and good day. Welcome to Attack Power Gaming. Thank you so much for being here. Today, we're going on to part 2 of how not to suck at Steel Division 2. If you enjoy this content, please consider dropping a like and hit that subscribe button for more Steel Division 2 content. What we're going to be hitting up here today is how to match your units up successfully, at least in a very basic way. So what I mean by matching up your units is sending the correct type of troop against the enemy. I see this all the time with newer players. They'll just send blobs of infantry into the woods, and those infantry aren't designed to fight in the woods, and they get wiped out by far less infantry of the opponents, but they're using the correct type in the woods. So we're going to be focusing a lot here on infantry because this is where the matchup type really matters. This is where it counts the most, is when you are matching up infantry compared to each other. So you can divide infantry by the way that the game actually divides it. We have rifle squads, we have close range squads. Let's find something close range here. A Morrow squad. Okay. So if we look here, this is called an assault squad because its weapons are mainly submachine guns. All right, so these submachine guns are for close range. They have a very short 150 millimeter range. Most close range weapons actually have even shorter than that. Most submachine guns, I think, have a 100-meter range. This is actually unique that they get those. So if we look at, say, a Tanko Desaniki, okay, you can see that the PPSH here has a 100-meter range. That's pretty close. And in the forest, that's the maximum you can see. In a green forest, this is the maximum distance you're going to see. Okay. So assault squads are designed for fighting, obviously, in close range. And these guys will dominate in close quarters. Okay. Especially these kind with the Molotov cocktails. Molotov cocktails are very strong. They've been weakened recently, but they're still very solid. What happens is when they throw their cocktail, the flames force the opponent's troops to move. And a huge factor, when your troops are moving, they take more damage. This is really important to understand. If your troops are on the move, they are going to be taking more damage than troops that are standing still, which is why you usually want to use your attack move order to move so that they will stop when they encounter enemy troops. That puts them on even fighting ground, considering if all cover is the same. If they're walking, though, they're going to take twice as much damage. So it's really important. That's why Molotov cocktails are really strong, because they force enemy troops to move, which causes them to take more damage and not be able to fire certain weapons. So that's our assault squad. These are your close range units. These are the kind of troops you want to be sending into forests. You do not want to be sending rifle squads or some of these later troops we're going to be going over. They're just going to die if they're in close range, and that's not going to work for you. Okay, our next most common troop is your rifle squad. So we're going to go with a Panzer Grenadier. Panzer Grenadier, very standard unit, comes in a lot of different Axis divisions. Okay, and we're going to go with the good version. Okay, one thing to note. So we have Grenadiers, and then there's Panzer Grenadiers. Grenadiers are much weaker than Panzer Grenadiers. These guys only have one light machine gun. They're much weaker than their Panzer Grenadier counterparts. It's really important to notice that difference. So here we have our Panzer Grenadier, which is your basic rifle squad. And this is a very solid squad. It's got 10 troops. This is your average number of troops. It has one submachine gun, which does not make it strong in close quarters. It has a sub number of rifles, in this case 7. And for the Panzer Grenadiers, we have 2 light machine guns. Now, this is considered a long-range sort of infantry division. These are the kind of guys you want in buildings shooting at troops at about 300 to 500 meters plus. That way you get to take full advantage of the most powerful light machine gun in the game, which is the MG42 here. All right, so this squad is not for forest fighting. You do not want to send these guys into heavy cover to go smoke out whatever enemy troops are hiding in those woods. These guys will not do well. The reason being is light machine guns cannot shoot at under 100 meters. So these guns are completely useless at close range. You're losing most of the firepower of this squad by fighting in close quarters. These are guys you sit on the edge of the forest, you fire at troops that are coming towards the forest, or you fight in towns where you can have sight lines that you can shoot enemy troops, okay? So if you can catch enemy troops out with these guys or be fighting at long range, they will do very, very well. But if you're throwing them up close to enemy troops, they're going to do really poorly. Now on the flip side here, if we look at, say, the Panzer Grenadiers with MG26s, the difference for these guys, and these guys are a little bit more effective at close range because of the fact that their machine gun is actually an automatic rifle. Automatic rifles can fire at within 100 meters. So these guys actually can fight in the woods. That doesn't make them great close range close combat troops, but it does make them at least more effective, and they actually have a chance of killing close range troops. So that's really important to understand about your troops. You need to know which one of the rifle squads actually can fight effectively at close range. This would be one that actually can do that because of that automatic rifles. That's really important to understand. If you do not understand it, you're going to lose a lot of troops in close quarters. Okay. Then we have flamers, assault engineers. Okay, similar to assault squad, but generally they're a little smaller, and usually they include some sort of flamethrower. Flamethrowers are very strong. All right, they can really clear a forest out. They will beat a flamer squad. Will generally beat a just assault squad that just has submachine guns, because it has both the submachine guns and it's forced every time the flamer shoots, the enemy troops are forced to move. And this is going to fire much more quickly than a Molotov cocktail. So this is, if you want real flamer power, using actual flame troops is the way to go. All right, these guys will give you a lot of power in the woods. Now, the problem is, of course, is they can't shoot things that are more than 100 meters away. So these are not the kind of troops you want to be sending across an open field or something to get to the other side. Troops like Panzer Grenadiers are going to wipe these guys out. So you have to be very specific about where you put these guys. You want to drive them right up to where they need to be, drop them off right next to the enemy troops, or be walking through a forest where these guys can be at their strongest. So if you need to clear out forests and stuff, and I'm talking green forest, not really yellow, because those have a longer sight range, these are the kind of troops you want. These guys will do a lot more damage, and they'll be much more effective than others. Now, some assault squads are a little different. For example, a Sturmjäger here has a mix of some rifles and then also some assault rifles, which are basically upgunned submachine guns that are weaker at close range but get an extra couple 100-meter range to do damage. So you'll see these mostly with just German squads. There's not a lot of assault rifles for the Allies. You'll see these mostly in German squads. Also, be aware, semi-automatic rifles are much more powerful than regular bolt action rifles that we see on any usual troop here. If I can find one with just a rifle with a Kar 98, it looks like I won't. Go there for a straight pull in this case. Your just straight pull kind of thing is going to be much slower. It's going to be much weaker. So be aware that if you can have troops with semi-automatic rifles, that's great. They're going to be very strong. They're going to have more power at that 500-meter range. So that's something to be really aware of. It's very important to know what kind of infantry you're bringing along. Then we also, don't forget, we have our leaders. Okay, leaders are great. They're not for fighting. Okay, here's a leader. These guys are not for fighting. They are for standing behind your troops and making sure that they get the veterancy they need to do that power. That's also another thing with matchups. Don't send your no-star infantry against 3-star enemy troops or 3-vet enemy troops. Your guys are going to die. Even if they're better troops, even if they're higher quality troops, for the most part, unless it's a massive gap in quality, the 3-star troops are going to win because they take less damage, they take less suppression, they do more damage, they dish out more, and they're going to kill your troops faster. So be very aware of that and try to be on the positive end of that veterancy gap. Getting that extra vet is going to make the difference. Another type of infantry are your disheartened troops. Now, this is just a rifle squad, but it has that disheartened trait. These guys can be very useful. They hold ground well. In this case, this is a 15-man squad. These guys are a meat shield. They'll take hits and they'll survive and hold ground, and they can kill things. I mean, don't think that they do no damage whatsoever. Throwing 2 of these guys at a single enemy troop squad can do a lot of damage. So just be aware of your general power levels of your troops and what they are good at. Making sure you know exactly how to work your troops is a big deal. One troop we did not go over finally is your Pioneer-esque unit. Basically any sort of engineer for the Allies, your Pioneers for the your Saperi for the Russians, your Pioneers for the Axis. These are troops with high explosive grenades of some sort, or TNT, whatever it happens to be. Very effective in forests. They can essentially wipe out an enemy troop. What'll happen is when the grenade goes off, the infantry unit will be instantly suppressed and you can then surrender them. One thing to make sure you know, especially in infantry combat, surrendering enemy troops is always faster than killing them. Killing them takes a long time. One thing to know, though, is you can't surrender enemy troops that are under the effect of a leader. If you are within a leader, your troops will not surrender unless your leader is also suppressed. Then they still will. So that's something something to know, and that's why you want to keep your leaders close as well, because it's going to keep your infantry alive a lot longer. So keep these things in mind when you're thinking about infantry combat, and infantry combat's one of the most important things to master. I know the tank combat seems more exciting, air combat seems really cool to get good at, but the truth is this is the bread and butter of your winning your games. If you can master how to run your infantry, how to work your infantry, and where to put them to be most effective, you're going to win a lot of games, way more than if you're really good at driving your tanks around. So keep that in mind, and the next time you decide to use those infantry, make sure you think, what kind of infantry are my opponents probably using, and how can I beat them in that matchup? Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Consider dropping a like and subscribing to the channel. Have a fantastic day.